The inquiry struck with the force of a speeding locomotive, revealing something truly incredible about AOC. Donald Trump stood at the center of the stage in CBS Studio 57 during the prime time slot of 8:00 p.m. Eastern. 400 individuals were squeezed into a space designed for only 300, creating a hot and tense atmosphere. Half of the audience members were sporting MAGA hats, while the other half wore AOC merchandise, and all of them were eager for a conflict. Cameras were positioned everywhere, with 10 million Americans watching from their homes, and perhaps even more were streaming live on social media. Margaret Brennan sat positioned between Trump and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, attempting to appear as though she commanded the situation, but she clearly did not. Trump leaned forward, radiating that aggressive and direct energy typical of a New York businessman, the kind of presence that dominates a room whether you appreciate it or not. He remarked that she appears here in a designer outfit costing more than most Queens residents earn in a month, yet she wants to lecture him about aiding the working class. He paused, allowing the statement to linger in the air for 5 seconds, then 10. The audience began stirring and murmuring, with the noise building. He corrected himself, saying, "That is rich," or actually, "No, she is the rich one," which is exactly the point he wanted to discuss. AOC shifted in her seat, remaining confident and composed, wearing that expression she used when she believed she was the most intelligent person in the room, the look that implied she had handled worse adversaries than him. Trump's eyes never wavered from her face. He told the folks that what they were about to hear was something special, consisting of 5 rounds and 5 examples of the biggest hypocrite in Congress, and he insisted that, believe him, that was saying something. He announced they were going to discuss her extravagant parties, her luxurious lifestyle, the jobs she destroyed, the people she harmed, and absolutely everything else. The studio audience leaned forward collectively, as this was the moment they had come for. It was the confrontation everyone had been anticipating. Trump versus AOC, Queens versus Queens, the billionaire versus the socialist, and reality versus fantasy. Margaret tried to interject, asking Mr. Trump if they could just pause. But Trump raised one hand, not rudely but simply a hand saying, "Not now." He stated they were going to start with the dress, that famous $35,000 dress worn while working people could not afford groceries. However, first he turned to address the camera directly. He told the viewers that if they had been waiting for someone to finally expose AOC for her hypocrisy, they should hit the like button right now. He urged them to share this because they would want their friends to see it, as what he was about to show them was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. He sat back, got comfortable, and smiled that specific Trump smile, the one that appears right before something terrible happens to someone who probably deserves it. He said, "Let's go." And Trump did not waste time with a slow build. He simply attacked, which was how he operated. He asked them to picture the scene, gesturing broadly to paint the picture, insisting that this is real and you cannot make it up. He mentioned the Met Gala, asking if they knew what that was, describing it as a fancy party in New York for rich people to celebrate being rich. Tickets cost $35,000 per person, which is more than a lot of people earn in a year. AOC's jaw tightened just slightly, but enough that Trump saw it and the cameras caught it. He continued that AOC showed up wearing a custom-made, beautiful dress, admitting he would give her that, which said, "Tax the rich" on the back. He drew out each word, emphasizing that she did this at a party full of rich people who paid $35,000 to be there, including her. The irony was so thick, you could cut it with a knife. Someone in the audience laughed a nervous laugh, and others joined, with the sound spreading. Actually, Trump's timing was perfect, adding that you would need one of those fancy knives they use at the Met Gala, because regular knives aren't good enough for the socialist socialite. The nickname landed and stuck immediately. You could see AOC's face redden slightly as her hands moved from resting on the armrests to gripping them until her knuckles were white. Trump stood up and started pacing, his energy building in his element with a live audience and cameras rolling, facing an opponent who could not leave. He told them he wanted to say something while AOC was at that party wearing that dress and drinking champagne with celebrities and millionaires and billionaires. He noted there were regular people watching, working people who had sent her money believing she would fight for them. He stopped pacing, turned to face the audience, and scanned the crowd. He asked how many people there had donated to AOC's campaign and requested they raise their hands. He encouraged them not to be shy and to raise them slowly. Hands started going up. 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, and more scattered throughout the audience, totaling maybe 40 hands. These were donors who had believed and sent money, who were about to learn where it went. Trump pointed at them one by one, making sure the cameras caught each face. He told AOC these were her people, the ones she claimed to represent. They sent her money in small donations of $50 or $100, whatever they could afford from their paychecks and savings, money they needed for rent, groceries, and their kids. He accused her of taking it, cashing those checks, and then going to the Met Gala. The hands stayed up, representing 40 people, 40 faces, and 40 donors watching her. AOC could not look at them, keeping her eyes down, staring at her notes as if they held the secrets of the universe. Trump said he would tell them about one of them, his voice changing to become softer and more personal. He said her name is Maria, just Maria. One donor out of thousands, but her story is everyone's story. He walked into the audience, even though stage rules usually did not allow it, but nobody was stopping him. He stopped next to an elderly woman in row 8, who was small and thin, wearing a simple dress with hands folded in her lap. He stated that Maria sent AOC $50. Maria is 68 years old and worked her whole life as a waitress in Queens, AOC's district. Maria lives on Social Security now, receiving $2,200 a month. After paying $1,800 in rent, she has $400 left for everything else, including food, medicine, and bills. $400 is it, which is all she has after 40 years of work. The studio had gone completely silent, and even the crew stopped moving. Cameras locked on Maria, on Trump standing next to her, and on AOC staring at her hands. Trump explained that when Maria sent that $50, it wasn't just $50. It was groceries for a week, medicine she needed, and the difference between paying the electric bill on time or paying late fees. $50 was everything to Maria. He put a hand on Maria's shoulder, gentle and respectful. He continued that Maria's daughter was having a 6th birthday, and Maria wanted to buy her granddaughter a present, a doll she had been asking for that cost $35 at Target. But Maria believed in AOC and believed she would fight for people like her. So Maria sent the $50 for the fight. Maria nodded, eyes glistening, not crying yet, but close. 2 months later, Maria watched TV and saw AOC walk into the Met Gala, saw that dress, and saw her partying with the exact people she claimed to oppose. Trump looked at AOC, who still wouldn't meet his eyes, and asked if she knew what Maria did. She called her daughter and explained why there was no birthday present that year. She explained why Grandma couldn't afford the doll because Grandma had sent her money to someone she believed in, someone who promised to fight for working people but was too busy partying with billionaires to remember where the money came from. The studio erupted, not with applause, but with rage, pure rage. Booing started in the back and spread forward, rolling through the audience like thunder. The 40 donors with their hands still raised were shouting, asking where their money was and demanding the fraud give it back. AOC's hands went to her throat in an unconscious, protective gesture. Her breathing had changed, becoming shallow and quick, and you could see her chest rising and falling with panic breathing. Margaret tried to restore order, banging her papers on the desk, asking if they could please stop, but nobody was listening. Trump let it build, letting the anger spread and letting 400 people process the same betrayal at the same time. When he finally spoke, his voice cut through the chaos like a knife through butter. He calculated $35,000 for the ticket and $35,000 for the dress, totaling $70,000 for one night, while Maria's granddaughter got nothing for her birthday. He walked back to center stage, standing between AOC and the cameras. He remarked that what is amazing is that the $70,000 came from people like Maria. It was small donors and tax-deductible contributions at work. He stated that Maria's $50 times 1,400 donations is how she bought that dress with their money, their rent money, their grocery money, and their kids' birthday present money. AOC tried to speak, but her voice came out higher than normal, faster and defensive. She stated she was making a point about fashion as protest. Trump's voice dripped with sarcasm, retorting that Maria can't afford fashion and can barely afford food. But AOC took her $50 and wore it on her back to a party with people she claims to oppose. She tried again, her voice climbing another octave, saying she was invited and it was an opportunity. Trump interrupted, saying, "Oh, she was invited," his eyes widening in mock amazement at how special that was. He noted that Maria wasn't invited. Maria was working at a diner serving people like AOC, people who can afford $35,000 tickets, while AOC was wearing her granddaughter's birthday present. AOC's face had gone from red to pale, with the color draining away. She looked to her left and right, looking for help, for an exit, or for anyone who could make this stop. But nobody came. Maria stood up slowly, using the seat in front of her for balance. Trump offered his hand, and she took it to steady herself. The cameras found her immediately, focusing every lens in the studio close up on this 70-year-old woman from Queens who had sent $50 and got nothing but a broken promise. When Maria spoke, her voice was small and quiet, but every microphone in the studio caught it and carried it to 10 million homes. She said 4 words, "I trusted you," in a voice that shook with emotion, betrayal, and the kind of disappointment that comes from believing in someone and learning they never believed in you. She repeated that she trusted her, watched her speeches, and believed she cared about people like her. She said she sent money she didn't have because she thought it would be used to help, and instead, AOC went to a party. She couldn't finish and sat down hard. Someone next to her, another elderly woman who was perhaps a friend, put an arm around her shoulders. The studio didn't erupt this time. It collapsed into something heavier than anger, into grief, and the realization that someone they had trusted had betrayed them in the most fundamental way possible, by taking their money and using it for luxury while they struggled. Trump stood there silent, letting it breathe and letting everyone feel the weight of what had just been said, the implications and the truth. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter and harder. He addressed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez under those lights, in front of those cameras, and in front of Maria and everyone who donated to her. He asked a simple question. Did she or did she not attend the Met Gala, while working families in her district struggled to pay rent? AOC's voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. stammering about tickets and the museum. He demanded a yes or no. Silence followed for 5 seconds, then 10, 15, and 20. She whispered, yes. He asked if her dress cost more than most people in Queens make in a month. She started to say she didn't pay for it, but he demanded yes or no. She said yes. He asked if she used campaign donations from people like Maria to fund her political operation while spending $70,000 on one night. Her lawyer would have told her to stop answering, but she wasn't thinking about lawyers anymore. She was thinking about Maria, about the 40 donors with their hands still raised, and about 10 million people watching her admit the truth. She said yes. Trump turned to the cameras, to America, and to everyone watching. He said, "That is one scandal, folks. One example of the socialist socialite taking your money to party with the rich, while you can't afford groceries. But wait," he said, "there is more. Oh, there is so much more." He opened a folder on his podium, a thick folder containing new evidence and new horrors. He said, "Let's talk about what she drives, what she lives in, and how she spends while she lectures you about capitalism being evil." He wanted to discuss how she tells working people that they are oppressed and preaches about income inequality from her luxury apartment. AOC's hands were shaking now, visibly shaking and trembling. The cameras caught it, zoomed in, and broadcast it to millions. Trump smiled, that dangerous smile, the one that says he is just getting started. He announced that was round one, covering the dress and Maria's $50, showing your donations funding her lifestyle. He told the viewers if they are one of those donors, or if that was their money she spent, they should share this and let everyone see what their contributions bought, because it wasn't fighting for workers, it was fighting for her image. He told them to keep watching because, trust him, it gets so much worse. The audience roared approval, with half of them standing now, applauding and chanting, "Trump." The other half, AOC's supporters, sat silent and uncertain, starting to doubt. Margaret tried to call for a commercial break, but nobody was listening. Trump just kept going, pacing again and building energy and momentum, like a shark that had tasted blood and wanted more. "Let me tell you something." His voice filled the studio, not yelling, but just big and overwhelming. He said, let him tell them about the people in AOC's district, the people she claims to represent. He meant working families, real working families, not the activists or the socialists from Brooklyn who love her on Twitter, but the actual people who live in Queens who elected her and believed her. He stopped pacing and turned to face AOC directly. He told her these people see her every day, and she knows what they see. They see what she drives, where she lives, and how she spends. And then they hear what she preaches about socialism, income inequality, eating the rich, abolishing billionaires, and taxing wealth out of existence. His voice dripped with sarcasm on every word. He added that meanwhile, she is living like one, well, not quite a billionaire, but definitely a millionaire lifestyle on a government salary, while telling working people that capitalism is evil, that their struggles are because of greed, and that the system is rigged against them. AOC tried to interrupt, claiming she fights for the people who clean his building. Trump's voice cut through hers like a machete, countering that the people who maintain his property and serve him at restaurants drive old cars. He mentioned 15-year-old Hondas and 20-year-old Toyotas, whatever still runs with no AC and rust on the doors, but it gets them to work 3 or 4 jobs to feed their families. He walked toward her, slow and deliberate. He asked if she knows what she drives. She didn't answer and couldn't answer. He answered for her. A Tesla, a $50,000 Tesla electric car, very progressive, very environmentally friendly, and very hypocritical. The audience stirred, murmuring and processing, with some of AOC's supporters looking uncomfortable now and starting to see the pattern. He remarked on how amazing it is that in the real world where actual working people live, $50,000 is 2 years of salary. People work 2 full years to earn what she spent on a car, while she lectures them about greed. Trump turned back to the audience and scanned the crowd. He asked how many people there drive a car worth more than $10,000 and asked them to raise their hands. A few hands went up, maybe 10 out of 400 people. He pointed at the sparse hands and told her those are the people she represents, the 98% who drive cars worth less than 10 grand, while she is in the 2% driving a Tesla and telling them capitalism is the problem. He spun back to AOC, quick and aggressive, getting in her face now. He asked how much her Tesla cost. She stammered that she needed reliable transportation. He asked again for how much. Her voice came out small and defeated, saying around 50,000. Trump repeated 50,000 slowly. He asked what the people in her district, the ones who voted for her, drive. She tried deflection, using that academic voice she used when she thought she was smarter than everyone, claiming this is a false equivalence and transportation needs vary. Trump's voice was flat and final, stating, "No, this is called reality." He said she preaches socialism and tells working people they should vote to redistribute wealth, to take from the rich to create economic equality. Yet she drives a car worth more than they make in 2 years, while telling them that cars are killing the planet. Unless it's her Tesla, then it's fine. The studio audience erupted again. Not just Trump supporters this time, but some of AOC's people too, slowly realizing and starting to see the contradiction that was too obvious to ignore. AOC's breathing had gotten faster and shallower, which you could hear over her microphone. It was that panic breathing that happens when you know you're cornered and there's no way out. She cried out that she deserves success too, the words coming out defensive, high-pitched, and desperate, saying she worked hard and is allowed to have it. Trump pounced, his voice rising, saying, "Of course she deserves success, but under capitalism, the system she wants to destroy. That is the hypocrisy." He turned to the audience with arms spread wide, declaring she wants socialism for them and capitalism for herself. She wants to take their wealth and redistribute it, but her wealth is different because she earned that under the system she claims is evil, the system she wants to eliminate for everyone except herself. The booing started again, louder this time, rolling through the studio like a wave. Even some of AOC's supporters weren't defending her anymore, just sitting there silent and processing the contradiction. Trump wasn't done. He noted she lives in a luxury apartment costing $2,600 a month, a 2-bedroom in Navy Yard, which is a very nice neighborhood. He asked if she knows what working families in Queens pay. They pay the same amount for a studio in a dangerous neighborhood with broken elevators and leaking pipes, but they pay the same rent she does for a tenth of the space in conditions 100 times worse. He walked back to center stage and stood under the lights. He said she shops at Whole Foods and posts about it on Instagram, showing expensive organic food that is very healthy and progressive. People in her district shop at discount stores and dollar stores, buying whatever is cheapest, because that is what they can afford, while she lectures them about corporate greed. AOC's hands were gripping the armrest so hard, her knuckles had gone white with bone showing through the skin. The cameras caught it close up, showing her face pale and sweating slightly under the studio lights. He continued that she wears designer clothes and posts photos on social media of expensive outfits and stylish fashion choices. Working people in Queens wear whatever doesn't have holes, whatever still fits, and whatever they can afford from clearance racks, while she preaches about income inequality. Trump's voice dropped, getting quieter and more dangerous. He said the difference between her and them is that they are honest. They know they are struggling and know the system is hard, but they work anyway and try anyway. They don't blame everyone else for their problems, and they sure as hell don't pretend to be something they are not. He pointed at her, direct and accusatory. He told her she got elected by pretending to be one of them. The bartender from the Bronx and the working-class hero, the voice of the people. But the second she got power, she became exactly what she claims to oppose. Rich, entitled, out of touch, and living in luxury while preaching about sacrifice for everyone else. AOC tried to respond. Her mouth opened and opened again, but no words came out. There was just that shallow breathing, that panic, and that realization that everything she had built and her entire brand was being destroyed in real time on national television in the real world. Trump continued with his voice building again, stating, "You don't get to preach about income inequality while driving a $50,000 car. You don't get to attack the rich while becoming one. You don't get to lecture about privilege while living in privilege." He walked toward her one more time and stopped right in front of her chair. He added, "Unless you are AOC, unless you are the socialist socialite, unless you are a fraud who never actually believed any of it." He accused her of just using it to get elected, to get famous, and to get rich, while the people who believed in her got nothing. The studio was on its feet now, with 300 people standing, applauding, and roaring, the sound physical and overwhelming. AOC sat there shrinking and getting smaller. The confident activist was gone, replaced by just a politician caught in lies she couldn't explain away. Trump looked at the cameras and at America, saying that is 2 rounds, the Met Gala while working people starve, and the Tesla while preaching socialism. It showed donations funding her luxury lifestyle while she attacks the lifestyle she is living. He told the viewers if they drive a 20-year-old car, clip coupons, or work multiple jobs while she lectures them about oppression, they should share this. Let everyone see the real AOC, the one who lives like the elite while attacking the elite. Unless she is the elite, then it's different. He opened another folder, thicker than the previous 2 combined. He announced, "Now let's talk about the jobs she killed, the families she destroyed, and the opportunities she eliminated. 25,000 of them are all gone because AOC needed Twitter likes." AOC's face had gone beyond pale to almost gray. She looked to her staff and to anyone, begging with her eyes for someone to make this stop, but nobody could. Trump just kept going. Trump's energy shifted, becoming less sarcastic and showing more real anger, the kind that comes from seeing something genuinely destructive and wanting everyone else to see it too. He said, "Let him tell them about the dumbest thing he has ever seen in politics." His voice filled every corner of the studio as he assured them he has seen a lot of dumb things, but this takes the cake and is special. He picked up a paper from his podium and held it up. He stated Amazon wanted to come to New York, to Queens, to AOC's district, to build a headquarters and create jobs, real jobs, good jobs, specifically 25,000 jobs. He let that number sit there, breathe, and grow. 25,000. Think about that. Not 2,500, not 25,000 of anything else, but 25,000 jobs, 25,000 families getting paychecks, 25,000 people getting health care, and 25,000 opportunities for better lives. Trump set the paper down and started pacing again. He said AOC, the socialist socialite, Sandy from the Bronx, the bartender billionaire, said no and killed it. She celebrated and threw a party on Twitter saying, "We stopped Amazon," like she had won something, like destroying 25,000 jobs was a victory. The audience stirred, and even some AOC supporters looked uncomfortable because this was documented, public, and undeniable. "You know who lost," Trump's voice rose, asking. "It was the 25,000 people who needed those jobs, the families who applied, the single parents working retail who could have gotten careers, the young people stuck in dead-end jobs who could have gotten opportunities, and the middle-aged workers downsized from other companies who could have gotten second chances." He stopped pacing and turned to face AOC directly. He told her all of them are gone because she wanted to look tough, because socialists in Brooklyn were watching, and because she needed to score political points with progressives who have never struggled a day in their lives. AOC tried to mount a defense, her voice shaking, claiming Amazon refused to pay fair wages. Trump's voice exploded, not yelling but just massive and overwhelming, shouting $85,000. That is what those jobs paid. People in her district make $30,000. He accused her of denying them a $55,000 raise. She stammered and tried again, saying, "We can't let corporations do this." Trump cut her off with a voice like a knife, asking, "Who is we?" He told her she decided, not we. The people who needed those jobs weren't asked or consulted. She decided they didn't need opportunities and decided Twitter likes were more important than their families' futures. He turned to the audience and scanned the crowd, asking how many people there applied for Amazon jobs or knew someone who did, requesting they raise their hands. Slowly, hands started going up. 1, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and more scattered throughout the audience, maybe 60 total people who had applied, hoped, and believed Amazon would give them a chance. The cameras panned across them, finding their faces and capturing their expressions of anger, betrayal, and loss. Trump pointed at them, making sure AOC saw and America saw. He said, "See that? Those are the people she hurt. Not Amazon, not Jeff Bezos, but them, real people from her district who voted for her and believed she would help them. And she killed their opportunities for tweets." One man stood up, a middle-aged Hispanic man wearing a button-down shirt, his voice shaking with emotion. He said he applied for operations manager at $80,000, planning to move his family out of their apartment to a better neighborhood with better schools for his kids. Others stood one by one all over the audience. One said they applied for tech support and could have started a career. Another applied for warehouse supervisor and would have gotten their daughter off food stamps. Another applied for customer service, their first real job opportunity in 5 years. Their voices overlapped and built on each other. A chorus of lost opportunities, destroyed hopes, and families still struggling because AOC had decided their jobs weren't important. Trump let it build. Let them speak. And let AOC hear every single one. When the voices finally died down, he spoke quietly, but every word carried weight. He said 25,000 families is not a statistic or a number. It is people. It represents parents who could have afforded better schools, single mothers who could have stopped working 3 jobs, young people who could have started careers, and immigrants, legal immigrants, who could have built better lives. He walked toward the section of audience members still standing and stood among them. He asked, "And you killed it for what? For applause from people who don't need jobs? For praise from activists who have never worried about rent? For Twitter followers who think opposing corporations makes you brave? His voice built, getting louder and filling the studio. He said, "What is amazing about AOC is she has never created a job. Not one. Never. She never ran a business, never made payroll, never worried about keeping employees working, never struggled to meet regulations, and never built anything. But she knows better than Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and everyone who has actually created jobs." He turned back to face her. She was crying now, openly crying with tears streaming down her face and mascara running. The confident activist was completely gone. He said, "She knows you don't need those jobs, knows your families don't need opportunities, and knows your kids don't need better schools because she doesn't need any of that. She has got hers under capitalism, the system she wants to destroy for everyone except herself." The chanting started low at first, with just a few voices asking, "Where are the jobs?" Then more voices joined asking, "Where are the jobs?" Then everyone in the whole section of 60 people all standing and chanting, "Where are the jobs?" AOC put her hands over her ears, trying to block it out and make it stop. But it didn't stop. It got louder, the sound rolling through the studio like thunder. Trump just stood there and let it happen, letting her hear it and letting America hear the sound of people whose futures she had destroyed, asking where their opportunities went. When the chanting finally died down, which took almost a full minute, Trump walked back to center stage. He said she claimed there will be other opportunities after killing the Amazon deal. Well, guess what? There weren't. Those 60 people are still looking, still struggling, still working jobs that pay a third of what Amazon would have paid, still living in apartments they wanted to escape, and still sending kids to schools they wanted to leave. He looked directly into the nearest camera at America and at everyone watching. He said this is because AOC decided, not them, but her, and they are the ones who paid the price while she drives her Tesla and lives in her luxury apartment and preaches about fighting for workers by taking away their work. AOC was trying to say something, her mouth moving but no sound coming out. Just that breathing, that panic, and that realization of complete exposure. Trump opened another folder, even thicker. 3 rounds down, 2 to go. He told the folks if they needed one of those Amazon jobs, if they know someone who did, or if they are still struggling because some bartender from Queens decided Twitter likes were more important than their family's future, they should share this. Let everyone see what fighting for workers really means to her. Spoiler alert, it means taking away their work. He pulled out papers, photos, and evidence. He announced, "Now let's talk about her grandmother, about Puerto Rico, about fake stories and real suffering, about using your own family for fundraising, and about $100,000 that went somewhere nobody knows. But we are going to ask, and she is going to answer, or try to." AOC's face had gone beyond pale and beyond gray to almost green, sickly looking. Her hands were trembling so badly they were visible on camera from across the studio. Margaret tried to call another break, saying perhaps they should, but Trump's voice was final, saying no breaks. She didn't give those families a break, so she doesn't get one either. He said, "Let's talk about Abuela." Trump's voice changed again. The anger was still there, but different now, colder, the kind of cold that comes from seeing something morally bankrupt and wanting everyone else to see it too. He shook his head and said this one crosses a line even for Congress, even for politicians, and even for AOC. Using your own grandmother for political fundraising and exploiting your family for money is low, really low. He picked up a photo and held it up so the cameras could see. He said this is a picture AOC posted on social media of her grandmother's house in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. It looks bad, right? It looks destroyed and looks like someone who needs help. He set it down and picked up another photo. He said, "This is a picture journalists took of the same house at the same time from a different angle. The house is fine, the roof is good, the walls are solid, and everything is intact. The grandmother is not in crisis, she is not suffering, and the house isn't destroyed." He set both photos down side by side, the contrast impossible to miss. So what happened? Simple. AOC needed a story, needed to look like she cared about Puerto Rico, and needed to raise money. So she exaggerated, she lied, and she used her own grandmother as a prop. She posted sad pictures, said the house was destroyed, said Abuela was suffering, and people sent money, over $100,000 to help. The studio had gone completely silent, and even the anti-AOC people looked uncomfortable now because this was different. This was family, and this was fraud. Trump's voice got quieter and more dangerous. He noted, except the grandmother didn't need help, and the house was fine. So where did that $100,000 go? He let the question hang there for 5, 10, 15 seconds. Nobody answered because nobody knew. He asked if anyone knows because he would love to hear this explanation. AOC tried to speak, her voice barely audible, mentioning various Puerto Rican causes. Trump's voice exploded, asking which causes. He demanded she show the receipts, the accounting, and the transparency. She raised money for her grandmother who didn't need it. So, where did it go? She couldn't answer and sat there silent with tears streaming faster now. Trump wasn't done. He asked if she knows who did need help. Real Puerto Rican families, real ones. People who actually lost everything in Hurricane Maria and who are still homeless 4 years later, living in unsafe conditions and struggling while waiting for help that never came. He gestured broadly, encompassing everyone. He said real families watched her campaign, watched her post about her grandmother, and watched people send money. They thought, finally, someone who understands, someone who will help, someone from Congress who cares about Puerto Rico. His voice dripped with disgust. Then they found out it was fake, that her grandmother was fine and the house was fine. The money went somewhere nobody knows, but it sure didn't go to the families who actually needed it. Trump walked to the side of the stage where audience members sat who had been quiet until now. He gestured to a section asking how many people there are from Puerto Rico or have family affected by Hurricane Maria. Hands went up, maybe 20 scattered through the audience. These were Puerto Rican community members, people with connections to the island, who knew what real hurricane damage looked like. He asked if any of them got help from AOC's fundraising. Heads shook in universal negative. Not one person got help. Of course not, he said, because the money wasn't for you. It was for her, her image, her brand, and her political career. She used her grandmother, used Hurricane Maria, and used your community's suffering to raise money for something we still don't know. One woman stood, speaking with a Puerto Rican accent and sounding angry. She said her family lost everything, the house gone and business gone, and they got nothing while she raised money off a fake story. Others stood, their voices rising, saying their neighborhood is still destroyed 4 years later, with still no real help, claiming she used them and used their pain. Their anger was different from earlier rounds. It was more personal and more hurt. This wasn't about politics or economics. This was about community and family, and using other people's tragedy for personal gain. AOC had her face in her hands now, shoulders shaking and sobbing. These were not defensive tears or political tears. but real ones. The kind that come from being exposed as something you never wanted to admit you were. Trump let the Puerto Rican voices build, and let them express their anger so AOC could hear what using people's suffering for fundraising actually costs. When the voices finally quieted, he spoke again quietly, but every word cut. He said she raised over $100,000 for a grandmother who didn't need it, while real families in this audience and in Puerto Rico, still struggling, got nothing. And when journalists caught her and proved the story was fake, she didn't apologize, return the money, or explain where it went. He walked back to center stage, stating she just moved on, posted something else, found another outrage to tweet about, and forgot about her grandmother, Puerto Rico, and the people whose donations she took under false pretenses. AOC tried to speak, her voice completely broken now and barely audible, saying she tried, and the situation was complex. Trump cut her off, not aggressive, just final. He said she committed fraud, let's call it what it is, raising money for one thing and spending it on another, or not spending it at all while nobody knows is fraud. In the real world and business world, people go to jail for that. But she is in Congress, so she just gets re-elected, or she used to before tonight. He picked up another folder, the final one. 4 rounds. The Met Gala, the Tesla, the Amazon jobs, and the grandmother fraud. One more to go. And this one is about her big plan, her Green New Deal. The $93 trillion fantasy that would destroy millions of jobs, including businesses that have existed for generations. Family businesses and American businesses would all be gone because a bartender from Queens who has never run a business decided she knows how to run the economy. AOC was completely broken now, head down, unable to look at anyone, speak, or defend herself, just sitting there destroyed, exposed, and finished. The audience was on its feet, not all of them. Not the AOC supporters, but most were standing and waiting for the final blow, the knockout punch. Trump smiled that dangerous smile, saying, "Let's finish this." Trump's energy came back full force, almost gleeful now, like he was about to deliver the punchline to the longest joke in American political history. He clapped his hands together and said, "Okay, let's talk about the Green New Deal. AOC's masterpiece, her big solution to climate change to save America and the planet and everything." He paused for effect before saying 93 trillion. The way he said it stretched it out, making every syllable count with a T. Trillion. That is not million or billion, but trillion. 93 of them. That is more money than exists in the world. More money than has ever existed in the history of money. But AOC has got a plan for it. He walked toward AOC, who wouldn't look up, just sitting there broken. He said she wants to eliminate oil, all of it gone, along with gas and coal, banning every fossil fuel. She wants to retrofit every building in America, every single one, to make them green and sustainable, whatever that means. And she wants to do it in 10 years. Trump stopped walking and laughed a genuine laugh at the absurdity. He said, 10 years? He has built buildings and knows construction. He asked if they know how long it takes just to get permits, file paperwork, and deal with regulations. It takes years, actual years. But AOC is going to rebuild every building in America in 10 years? Sure. The audience laughed with him, even some AOC supporters, as the plan was too ridiculous not to laugh at. And it gets better. Oh, it gets so much better. He asked if they know what else she wanted to ban in the original plan. He paused for dramatic effect and said cows, cows. He insisted he is not making this up, because cows produce methane, which is bad for the environment. So the solution is to eliminate cows and get rid of them. He said He doesn't know what we are supposed to eat or what happens to dairy. But the cows have to go. More laughter followed, louder now, and even Margaret was trying not to smile. This is who you elected, Queens. A bartender who wants to eliminate cows with a $93 trillion plan that would require inventing money that doesn't exist to solve a problem by creating worse problems. That is your Congresswoman. Trump's voice shifted, less humor now and more serious. But here is what is not funny. Here is what is actually tragic. He asked if they know who pays the price for fantasy plans. Real people, real businesses, and real families who have built something over generations. He turned to the audience and asked how many people here own businesses or work for small businesses. There was a massive response with maybe 100 hands going up, a quarter of the audience. Under AOC's Green New Deal, how many of those businesses would survive? Every hand went down, every single one. Exactly zero, none. Because her plan makes their equipment illegal, their processes illegal, and their entire way of doing business illegal overnight. All the investment they made is worthless, all the training useless, and all the expertise built over years, decades, and generations gone. A man stood up, older, maybe 60-something, his voice thick with emotion. He said his family has an HVAC company his grandfather started 60 years ago, spanning 3 generations. All their equipment would be illegal, and they would have to spend $800,000 to retrofit. He said they don't have $800,000, so they would have to close and 20 employees would be unemployed. Trump pointed at him, ensuring the cameras got him, saying that is the real cost of AOC's fantasy, not $93 trillion in made-up money, but real people losing real businesses and 3 generations of work gone, because someone who has never run a business decided she knows how to regulate them out of existence. More people stood all over the audience. A manufacturing company 4th generation that can't meet requirements, a construction firm with equipment too old that would have to close, and a trucking business whose vehicles would be banned. 40 families unemployed. Their voices built on each other. A chorus of small businesses that would be destroyed, family operations ended, and generations of work eliminated. All for a plan that couldn't work, wouldn't work, and was never meant to work. Trump let them speak. Let AOC hear every single one, and let America see the real cost of socialist fantasy. When the voices died down, he turned back to AOC and asked if she has ever created a job. She didn't answer and couldn't answer. He listed that she never ran a business, never made payroll, never worried about regulations, never struggled to keep employees working, and never built anything. But she knows exactly how to destroy everything these people built. He walked to his podium, picked up papers, and held them up. He asked if she knows what this is. This is her FAQ document, the one she posted with the Green New Deal, the one she deleted when people started asking questions, when economists started laughing, and when business owners started panicking. Trump read from it slowly, making sure everyone heard. Quote, "We aren't sure how to pay for it." Her words, "Not sure how to pay for $93 trillion. Imagine that. He flipped a page. Quote, "Implementation details are unclear." Her words, "Unclear how to actually do any of it, just that it sounds good." Another page. Quote, "Timeline may not be feasible." May not be feasible is her way of saying impossible. 10 years to rebuild America is impossible, but she proposed it anyway. He set the papers down. He said she posted this, her FAQ and her admissions. Then she deleted it because even she knew it was stupid, even she knew it couldn't work, and even she knew it was a fantasy. But she proposed it anyway because it sounds good to people who don't understand economics or math or reality. Trump's voice rose, building to the climax. He said, "You know what the worst part is? The absolute worst part? You don't care that it can't work. You don't care that it would destroy millions of jobs. You don't care that it would bankrupt America. You don't care because you never intended it to pass. You just wanted applause." He pointed at her, accusatory. Applause from environmentalists, from socialists, from progressives who have never worked a real job, from people who think destroying businesses makes you brave, and from Twitter followers who don't understand that jobs matter more than likes. The audience erupted in a standing ovation. Everyone, even some of AOC's former supporters. The evidence was too overwhelming, the hypocrisy too obvious, and the fantasy too exposed. AOC sat there, head down, completely still, not crying anymore, beyond crying, just empty, broken, and destroyed. Everything she had built, her entire political brand, was demolished in less than 2 hours on live television. Trump stood center stage under the lights, victorious. He said, "That is all 5 folks, 5 scandals, 5 lies, 5 categories of victims. The Met Gala, while small donors starve. The Tesla, while preaching socialism, killing Amazon jobs, fundraising fraud, and the Green New Deal fantasy that would destroy millions of businesses." He looked directly into the camera at America and at 10 million people watching. He said, "That is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That is the socialist socialite. And that is who Queens elected. A fraud, a hypocrite. Someone who preaches one thing and lives another. Someone who takes from working people to fund her luxury lifestyle. Someone who destroys jobs while claiming to fight for workers. Someone who uses her own family for fundraising. And someone who proposes plans she knows can't work, just to get applause." He paused to let it sink in. He told them to share this everywhere, subscribe, comment, and tell everyone they know, because this is what socialism really looks like. It isn't equality, fairness, or helping people. This is what it really is. Elites living in luxury while preaching sacrifice to everyone else. That is AOC, that is the squad, and that is the whole movement. The audience roared, chanting, "Trump, Trump, Trump." AOC still sat there, motionless, defeated, and finished. Margaret tried to wrap up, saying we should thank our guests, but nobody was listening. The damage was done, the exposure complete, and the confrontation over. Trump had won. America had watched. And nobody would forget. The video went viral before the show even ended, getting 30 million views in the first hour, 60 million by morning, and 100 million by the end of the week. AOC Exposed was trending #1 worldwide. Socialist Socialite became her permanent nickname. Queens versus Queens captured the entire confrontation, every clip, every moment, and every devastating exchange. Conservative media went into celebration mode. Fox News ran the footage on loop. Tucker Carlson devoted an entire show to analysis, and Sean Hannity called it the greatest political takedown in American history. Laura Ingraham played the Met Gala section 3 times. The audience numbers were massive and record-breaking. Liberal media tried to defend her, but couldn't. The footage was too damaging, the victims too real, and the evidence too clear. CNN ran segments titled Problematic Moments, but even their talking heads struggled. MSNBC tried to focus on Trump's tone instead of AOC's actions, but it didn't work. By the next day, even they had moved on and left her to sink alone. AOC's office stopped answering phones by midnight because there were too many calls and too much anger. Voicemail was full within an hour, and the system crashed by morning. Overwhelmed by the volume of constituents demanding explanation, resignation, and accountability. The squad was silent, with not one tweet of support, not one statement of defense, and not one appearance together. Omar posted something vague about unity without naming AOC. Clyburn retweeted environmental news. Presley went dark completely. The solidarity was fake and always had been, and now everyone knew. Nancy Pelosi's office released one sentence saying the Congresswoman speaks for herself. Translation: she is on her own. Good luck. You are going to need it. By morning, AOC had deleted the Twitter app from her phone because she couldn't handle the notifications, the mockery, and the shame. Thousands of tweets per minute were coming in, all brutal, accurate, and permanent. Instagram went next due to too many comments and too many people pointing out her luxury lifestyle in every photo, every designer outfit, every expensive meal, and every contradiction exposed. Her approval rating in Queens dropped overnight from 64% to 33%. A 31-point collapse in hours. The fastest political implosion in New York history. Polls showed her losing the primary by 28 points to anyone. Literally, anyone who challenged her would win. The primary challenger announced at midnight. He didn't wait and struck while the iron was hot. He was not another activist or progressive, but an actual worker. A union member electrician born in Queens, raised in Queens, and still living in Queens in a normal apartment, driving a normal car, and living a normal life. His slogan was, "A real worker versus the fake socialist." His first ad featured clips from the debate, AOC's Tesla versus his Ford pickup, her luxury apartment versus his rental, her designer clothes versus his work uniform, and her Met Gala versus his Union Hall. The contrast was devastating. Fundraising exploded with $3 million in the first month, all from small donors giving $20 or $50, whatever they could afford. The money that used to go to AOC was now going to her opponent, Poetic Justice. Early polling showed him leading by 18 points within 2 weeks, 22 points by the end of the month, and 26 points as the lead grew when more people saw the debate, learned the truth, and realized they had been lied to. Maria, the one donor Trump had spotlighted, became a national figure. Conservative groups raised money for her, $50,000 in a week, more than she would make in 2 years. She bought a house, actually bought it, a small house in Queens, nothing fancy but hers, and paid in full. It was the American dream realized by people AOC claimed to represent, but never did. Maria became a spokesperson for donors deceived by the movement, appearing on every conservative show, Fox News, Newsmax, and conservative podcasts. Her message was consistent. I believed in her. She believed in my money. Never again. Her story became a symbol of progressive hypocrisy. An elderly woman sacrificing for a politician who used it for luxury. The contradiction was too perfect, too obvious, and too viral. And working people in AOC's district organized, real workers, not activists or socialists, but people who cleaned buildings, drove trucks, and worked construction. The people she claimed to represent, but never did. They formed a coalition backing the primary challenger. Voter registration went up 40% in Queens, all against her. The 25,000 families affected by Amazon formed their own group called Jobs AOC Killed. It was blunt, accurate, and devastating. They documented every person who applied, every family that needed work, and every opportunity destroyed. The evidence was overwhelming. Other companies announced Queen's expansions, smaller than Amazon, but something, creating 5,000 jobs by businesses wanting to prove they cared about Queen's workers more than AOC did. The contrast was stark. Her obstruction versus others' progress. Puerto Rican community leaders called for her resignation with a formal statement that was public and brutal. They said she exploited our suffering for personal gain, she raised money off a fake story while real families got nothing. She does not represent us, and she never did. Community organizing against her included bilingual campaigns in Spanish and English, with churches involved, community centers, and local businesses all turning against her. Her name became toxic. AOC was toxic in the neighborhoods that elected her. The betrayal was too personal, and the fraud too obvious. Small business owners across Queens organized a Business Owners Against AOC coalition, forming and endorsing the primary challenger en masse. They documented every regulation she proposed that would hurt them and created jobs to spite her, proving what actual job creation looked like and what actually helping workers meant. The Chamber of Commerce issued formal opposition, not just to her policies, but to her, the first time they had ever opposed a specific candidate. But the Green New Deal threat was too real and the danger too obvious. They couldn't stay neutral anymore. Progressive organizations started distancing themselves. The Democratic Socialists of America released a statement saying, "We support democratic socialism, not hypocrisy." Translation: She is making us look bad, we are out. Major donors cut ties publicly with statements explaining why. Her fundraising collapsed from millions to thousands. Nobody wanted the association or the taint. Her staff quit in a mass exodus. Her campaign manager resigned via Twitter and wouldn't even call her. The chief of staff was gone by morning, the press secretary by afternoon, and the policy director by evening. Within 72 hours, 3 people were left running her entire operation. Everyone else fled with resumes going out, looking for any other work. Anything but association with AOC. Her office in Queens closed temporarily for renovations, the sign said. Translation: She is hiding, can't face constituents, can't answer questions, and can't defend herself. Her office in D.C. showed up to vote, but ran from cameras with no statements, no interviews, no explanations, just votes and escape. Other members avoided her in hallways, didn't want to be seen together, and didn't want the association. Committee assignments were under review. Democrats wanted her gone off committees, out of leadership, and away from cameras, as invisible as possible, until the primary ended her career naturally. Speaking invitations were canceled, all of them. Universities didn't want protests, organizations didn't want controversy, and events didn't want boycotts. She was toxic, untouchable, and radioactive. Her book deal was canceled, with the publisher citing changing market conditions. Translation: Nobody wants to read this anymore. The brand is dead. The story is over. The Netflix documentary about her was canceled due to creative differences, they said. Translation: This would lose money now that the narrative changed and the hero became the villain. You can't sell that. Trump's victory tour was on every show, every platform, and every interview talking about the debate, about AOC, about socialism, and about reality versus fantasy. His approval ratings climbed to 71% nationally and 89% among Republicans. Presidential speculation intensified, and an exploratory committee was announced. That is what happens when socialism meets reality, he said on Hannity, when fantasy meets facts, and when Twitter likes meet real life. Queens taught the bartender a lesson, a Louisiana lesson, a Trump lesson. Don't lie to people about who you are, because eventually someone is going to call you out on national television in front of 10 million people, and then it is over. The phrase caught on. "Don't let Trump pull an AOC on you," became a warning among Democrats. Every progressive was terrified of similar exposure. Every socialist checked their own lifestyle for contradictions, and every activist made sure their story held up under scrutiny. AOC hadn't appeared publicly since the debate for 3 weeks. No appearances, no statements, no nothing, just silence. The confident activist was completely gone, replaced by a broken politician waiting for the inevitable end. Primary polling showed her losing by 32 points, and internal numbers were worse. The campaign knew it, the staff knew it, and she knew it. Loss was inevitable, and her career over. Just a matter of time. She looked for an exit strategy post-Congress, but career options were limited. Nobody wanted her. Universities said no, companies said no, organizations said no, and even progressive groups passed. The brand was too damaged, and the reputation too destroyed. The rumored Netflix deal fell through. Book publishers wouldn't return calls, and speaking agents stopped answering. She was alone, completely alone. Everything she had built was gone, destroyed in 2 hours on live television by simple questions and obvious evidence. The socialist socialite nickname stuck permanently, used by everyone, including other progressives and former allies. It captured everything: the hypocrisy, the fraud, the contradiction of living like the elite while preaching equality, getting rich off capitalism while attacking capitalism, and a luxury lifestyle funded by working-class donors who struggled. Her Wikipedia page updated within hours. No longer a rising star, no longer a progressive champion, no longer a squad member, just a former U.S. representative who lost the primary following a televised debate, known for controversial policies and lifestyle contradictions. That was her legacy. Former, controversial, contradictions. Nothing else would be remembered. The Green New Deal was forgotten, the squad disbanded, and the movement fractured. All that remained was the fraud exposed, the fake revealed, and the socialist socialite unmasked. Political obituaries were written while she still held office. The rise and fall of AOC became common headline articles analyzing what went wrong, where she failed, and how she lost touch. But they all missed the point. She didn't lose touch. She never had it. The bartender from the Bronx was always fake. The working-class hero was always a fraud. And the voice of the people was always the voice of herself. It just took Trump, queens meeting queens, to expose it. Maria lived to see vindication, got her house, got her justice, and got her voice back, spending her remaining years as a conservative folk hero, always telling the same story and always ending the same way. "I gave $50 to fight for working people, and it ended up buying her a Met Gala ticket instead. But it was the best $50 I ever spent because it exposed her." The people who needed Amazon jobs, some found work while others are still looking, but they organized, mobilized, and made sure the next representative understood that jobs matter, opportunity matters, and Twitter likes don't feed families, and politicians who forget that don't get second chances. The Puerto Rican community rebuilt without her. Other representatives helped. Real aid came through, and real families got real assistance. The community remembered who actually helped versus who just fundraised off fake stories, and remembered who showed up versus who showed off. Small businesses survived, despite her, and in spite of her, because that is what small businesses do. They survive, adapt, and endure. And when the Green New Deal died, which it did immediately and completely, they breathed easier, built more, hired more, and proved what actual job creation looked like. Trump used the victory as a launching point for his presidential campaign in full swing, with the debate footage in every ad, the confrontation at every rally, and the exposure at every speech. "That is what I will do to socialism" became his message. Facts, evidence, reality. That is how you beat fantasy. It worked. Polling showed him leading every Democrat, including primary challengers and incumbents. The debate proved he could dismantle progressive arguments, could expose hypocrisy, could connect with working people, and could deliver a simple message: reality beats fantasy always. But the real victory wasn't Trump's. It was reality's. Facts beat feelings, evidence beat narrative, truth beat lies. And working people beat fake advocates. Queens, real queens, working people, beat the queen's faker. The lesson spread beyond politics, beyond AOC, and beyond one debate. It became cultural, moral, and simple. You can't preach ye one thing and live another. You can't attack wealth while accumulating it. You can't claim to represent workers while destroying their opportunities. You can't use people's suffering for personal gain. You can't propose fantasies as solutions. You can't expect people to stay fooled forever. Eventually, someone asks simple questions. Eventually, evidence emerges. Eventually, truth matters. And eventually, reality wins. That is what happened to AOC. Simple questions, obvious evidence, clear truth, and reality defeating fantasy on national television in front of 10 million people permanently, completely, and finally. The socialist socialite learned what happens when Queens meets Queens, when working people meet someone pretending to be working people, when donors meet someone spending their donations on luxury, and when reality meets fraud. Truth wins, reality wins, working people win, and America wins. And the bartender who thought she could fake her way to power learned the hard way that you can't, not forever, not when someone is willing to ask simple questions, not when evidence is clear, and not when 10 million people are watching. She got exposed, destroyed, and finished, and everyone saw it happen live in real time, with no excuses, no escape, and no second chances. That is justice. Real justice. The kind that happens when truth matters more than narrative, when facts matter more than feelings, and when reality matters more than fantasy. AOC learned it the hard way. Queens taught her, Trump delivered the lesson, America watched, and nobody forgot. The socialist socialite got schooled, and school was permanent. Folks, if watching Trump destroy AOC with simple facts gave you even half the satisfaction it gave Maria and those Amazon families and those Puerto Rican communities and those small business owners, smash that like button right now. Share this everywhere, tweet it, post it, and send it to every socialist you know who thinks feelings matter more than facts. Let them see what happens when reality meets fantasy, when business meets bartending, when Queens meets Queens, and when someone who has actually built something confronts someone who has only destroyed things. Comment below. Should AOC resign? Should she be investigated? And what should happen next? Because America is watching, working people are watching, and we are not forgetting. And subscribe, because, trust me, there are plenty more where she came from. Bernie, Ilhan, the whole squad. They are all hiding the same contradictions, living the same lies, and preaching the same fantasies while living different realities. This is just round one of the Trump exposure tour. We are just getting started. And after what you just watched, you know exactly how it ends. With truth, with reality, with facts, with working people getting justice, with frauds getting exposed, and with socialists getting schooled. That is what we deliver every time. No exceptions, no excuses. See you in the next one. And trust me, it's going to be even better. Justice doesn't sleep, and reality doesn't stop.